Hi, everybody. Welcome to this latest episode of Real Talk with Rick. I'm very pleased to have on this episode one of the founders and restaurant owners of the new Asia Mall, in Eden Prairie, what was formerly the Gander Mountain on Technology Drive near Highway 212. This is a very popular, newly constructed, newly opened food hall with a variety of Asian restaurants. And my guest owns, I guess you could say, three different restaurants or three different businesses within the Asia Mall. And he talks about those businesses. He talks about his background and coming over, he and his family from Vietnam in 1980 and being involved in the restaurant business and moving to Eden Prairie, living in Eden Prairie. And also kind of teases out what might be coming to the Asia Mall, what's next at the Asia Mall. So you definitely want to listen to hear how that business got off the ground and what's coming next regarding all of his different initiatives. So here is my conversation with Eden Prairie resident and restaurateur Michael Bowie. Michael Bowie, thanks for coming on to the podcast today. We appreciate you coming in.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. So I mentioned in the intro that you are one of the people behind the Asia Mall, in the restaurants in the Asia Mall. It's just been such a popular and much welcomed addition to Eden Prairie. Can you talk a little bit about what you have going on in Asia Mall, and then we're going to kind of get to your journey on how you got here, but I'd like to start there if that's okay.
Terrific. Yeah, so at the Asia Mall, I have really three concepts in the Asia Mall that we put kind of right next to each other. So I own the Pho Mai restaurant, Vietnamese cuisine, and then we also procured a Singapore franchise it's called Boba Tea, and then also Mochi Dough. So there we have the famous rice flour donuts called Mochi Donuts, and that's been a huge hit throughout Minnesota.
Yeah, it has, and I've been there at least 4 times, and twice I've been in Pho Mai, and I've seen the lines to Mochi Dough. People are kind of in the line, goes kind of all the way to the front of the building, because then you see them kind of walking around the mall itself, eating the Mochi donuts. I was able to sample one when you had your grand opening, but I think people, this is my guess, you'll tell me, people I think are driving from pretty far away to line up for those.
Oh, definitely. We've got terrific feedback. There's some other places that recently opened up, but what separates our donuts is really premium ingredients, but also we're making it throughout the whole day. I mean, most donut shops, they're done making donuts by 7 a.m. and they just sell out. We're making it on the fly to about 5 to 6 p.m. daily.
Wow.
Yeah, so you're going to get the freshest donuts.
I don't know if you have this off the top of your head, but just thought I'd ask. Do you know how many you make in a day there, roughly?
On our busiest days, we'll make 25 to 27 batches, and each batch is about 300 donuts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so do the math. It's a lot of donuts.
Yeah,
and we usually sell out on weekends just because we have to stop at a certain point in order to clean up and prep for the next day.
Yeah.
So people do get a little bit sad and mad that we run out, but that's the life of a bakery and especially a donut shop.
Yeah. Well, I know that a couple times I've been there, my kids love pho, and I think we talked about this before we started taping, that like the banh mi sandwiches and the pho are just such a big hit around here, and those are things that I told you those are things I didn't have growing up, because when people thought maybe a Vietnamese cuisine, it was so much Americanized, but now you're seeing a lot of places like yours that have more of those traditional ingredients.
Definitely, we're very excited for Pho Mai because that's our baby. My parents have had restaurants in the past and other Vietnamese restaurants when most Vietnamese emigrated to America back in the 80s. We had to tailor our cooking to the Midwestern taste, more of like your sesame chicken, sweet and sour, egg foo young. But with Pho Mai and our other restaurants, we decided, let's just make traditional food that you'd get back in Saigon or My Tho. That's where my family grew up. So less deep fried, less oil, but more flavorful cooking. A lot of vegetables, great sauces, hot pots, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's been well received, and definitely our pho is probably the staple of Vietnamese cuisine. And I'm just amazed at how many Americans come in and eat pho. I'm just amazed, especially kids. Like they're 8 years old, 12, 15. So I remember back in my early days, that never happened. And actually, I have a great story to tell.
Yes.
When we first came over to Vietnam, it was my birthday. I think I was in probably 5th grade.
So what year?
Probably 85.
85.
I think. Yeah,
okay.
back in the days.
Yeah.
My mom made a pan cake for me to bring to school and share with the kids. So I brought it all happy. When the kids tasted, they hated it. They threw it all away. And I'm like, it was probably the saddest day of my life. But fast forward 30 years. We make those pancakes right now, and we sell out all the time. My wife stopped making it at her Dinkytown restaurant because we couldn't make enough of them. That's how taste has really changed in the past 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So those kids that threw it away back then now taste our flavor pancakes, which are super moist, very flavorful, and we hope to offer that in our Pho Mai Eden Prairie Asia Mall location in the next few months.
Yeah, well, speaking of younger people too, it's my kids cannot stop getting bubble tea, so you have that too, and they would drag us parents to Quang, and for Pho in Minneapolis. So it's just great that it's just an explosion of this cuisine, everywhere. Not just Minneapolis, St. Paul, and here in Eden Prairie. I knew the minute that Gander Mountain was going to pivot to this, everybody that I talked to, when I just knew the concept, I didn't even know the names of the restaurants, people were so excited.
Yes, I've lived here over 20 years. And
Yeah.
I was excited to bring my own restaurant here and all the other Asian restaurants in the mall, just because we love the restaurants, but they're all pretty big and common. Redstone, Kona, Champs.
Yep.
There wasn't really anything super authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah, a mom and pop shop. So that's where the Asian mall, all the restaurants are from, individual owners, mom and pops. They're not backed by big companies.
They're not
all the
corporate,
owners,
no.
Exactly. All the owners work there. They put their life savings in there, just like us. We bet the farm on that. So that's where we're so thrilled to see a very receptive and large audience loving our food.
So large that we need to add more parking. Well, you do, and you're doing that. So
yeah,
that's
so
good.
they
We're
are
excited about that.
Yep, the Asian Mall is
Yeah.
adding more parking, but now they found employee parking. So on weekends, employees park and get shuttled in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
that
That's
helps.
good. Opens up more spots. But it's one of those good problems to have, right? If you need to find more parking, it's because it's so popular. And you mentioned the hot pot, so the other restaurants in there too. Do you know the owners of those restaurants?
Yes, we visit the restaurants like every day. We'll
Okay.
share food with them because
Okay.
it's all the restaurants are pretty unique. They have their own, great flavors: Chinese, Korean, hot pot. So we'll eat all of them on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think across from your restaurants, is that where the Korean barbecue? No, that's upstairs. Is
Yep.
the Korean barbecue?
So right across from us is Home Taste. So they
Okay.
specialize in Hong Kong flavors.
that's right.
Like your roast duck and roast pig and
Yeah, I haven't been there. I've got to make it
That's
there. And then
terrific.
the hot pot upstairs, and there's a Chinese restaurant.
there's
upstairs.
a Chinese legendary spice. They specialize in more of a Szechuan flavors. And then there's also the Korean restaurant upstairs. So they have terrific fried chicken. It's like triple fried. It's really crunchy and crispy. So highly recommend all the restaurants.
That's
there.
great. Yeah, I know. I wanted you to talk about some of the other locations, and there's space for more, right? Are you aware of any more that may be coming in?
Yes, there's going to be a Chinese bakery coming in. So that nobody knows that yet. So I'm going to share that now. I'm not going to share the name yet.
Okay.
That'll be finalized next week, but very excited. Just because you go to any Chinatown or Little Saigon, you see roast ducks hanging, but then you also see a bakery.
Yeah.
The like barbecue buns and steamed buns and coconut buns and rice cakes and so we're excited to finally have that.
Yeah,
And-
that's great. And we didn't even talk about the grocery store, because that's kind of the anchor, one of the
That
largest.
attracts.
Yeah.
That attracts so many customers just because it's large. It has a live seafood section, but it's clean. I've grown up in Minnesota. A lot of the Asian restaurants, shops, they're not at that commercial enterprise level. They're more of mom and pop shops. So with this Asian mall, everyone put everything they had into making it, more of a first class mall.
And again, I think the early returns are positive. I think that's great. You talked a little bit about coming here and growing up. Maybe let's take a step back, if you don't mind, Michael, to talk about where you were born, grew up, and kind of what brought you here.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I was born in My Tho in Vietnam. I came over here in 1980 with my parents. We moved around a lot, but one of the first places we landed was Eden Prairie. So I went to Prairie View Elementary, and I remembered playing in Duck Lake and walking that road home to school. So I lived in a couple of years. Then we ended up moving around town like 6 places. So I ended up graduating from Centennial High School in Circle Pines, Minnesota.
Yeah, north of Shoreview, Roseville area.
Yep.
Yeah.
So just a small student population back then, but Centennial's huge now, probably the size of Eden Prairie, I would imagine.
When your parents came here to Eden Prairie, what brought them here? Why Eden Prairie? Do you remember?
I think back then it was more of affordable housing. Back in the 80s, it was a lot more affordable than it was now.
Sure.
Yep. So we found a little nice house, and from there it just progressed and moved up, kind of bigger house then, and then that's how we ended up in Circle Pines.
So then you graduated from Centennial and then went to the University of Minnesota.
Yes. Went to University of Minnesota for political science and business background. Once I graduated there, I went to Hamlin Law School. So I received my law degree. But while in law school, I fell in love with technology. So right after law school, I went out to Silicon Valley, to work with all the startups, helping out with their computer systems and making sure, it runs properly and sufficient storage and performance. So that's where I kind of honed in on my technical capabilities, in addition to my legal and business background.
And then came back here.
Yeah. So when the tech boom busted back in, I think, 2000, 2001.
Sounds right.
Yeah. I was able to get a job back here at Digi International.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a big company.
Yeah. So
I don't know if they still are.
Yeah, they're still pretty big. They're by the Crosstown, Shady Oak area.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was fortunate enough to land a job there as an IT engineer, network engineer. And that's where we were able to locate our first house. And we've been there since 2002. So over 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
Yep, so near Dallin Pioneer. So we're fortunate that all of our 4 kids have grown through the Eden Prairie school system. So Prairie View, Central Middle School, and then Eden Prairie High School.
Eden Prairie High School.
Yep.
That's great. No, it's great to have you as a resident and someone has ownership at the Asia Mall. Would you talk about, but you said earlier too, before we started recording, that your parents have roots in some of the restaurants in the area nearby. So
yeah, so
talk about some of that.
My mom has worked in restaurants since 1980 when she first came over. She's worked at some of the more staple Vietnamese restaurants like Quay Viet and Vina, and she opened up her own restaurants. She opened up Vina Plus and Maxime. These restaurants had great food, but unfortunately she didn't run it like a business. So it's funny is that she could care less if the restaurants made money. And after they didn't, my dad, he had his daytime job, so he would pour money into the business. She just loved to cook.
Yeah.
Yeah, she really loves to cook. So that's where my restaurant experience came in. So because myself and my older brother and her partnered on MT Noodles, which is a restaurant in Brooklyn Park, I'm sorry, about 7 years ago.
Okay.
Yep. So my brother and my mom started, and then I joined them.
Okay.
But that's where we were able to assist her with marketing, finance, payroll, and just really let her cook, but we handle the customer service.
So, I mean, what a great combination, because your mom loves to cook, but you're afraid none of the restaurants are going to make it unless you guys are there to help keep track of the business aspect of it.
Yes. So
MT Noodles, like what are some of the big dishes there, popular dishes?
So MT Noodles, if you talk to any Vietnamese, they know very well, because it's probably one of, if not the most traditional Vietnamese restaurant in Minnesota. If you go over there, you're going to see 80% of the population is Vietnamese customers, just because they grew up eating this food, so they're so used to it. Yeah, so we're just excited. But my wife and I, after working for MT Newsall, we wanted to kind of open up our own place and make our own path. That's when a space became available in Dinkytown. So my wife and I opened up Pho Mai in Dinkytown. So the hardest part there is we signed the lease before COVID, and it took 8 months to build out. So by the time we were completed, it was May. It was about 3 months after COVID hit.
Oh.
So we're sitting there like, we got to open up.
Yeah.
So we finally opened up, but it was only takeout.
Yeah.
So we couldn't even do the full grand opening, the dine-in experience. So we survived. We signed up with all the delivery services, but it was a struggle.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, so we all lived this, that a lot of restaurants that I was familiar with that I never would have thought to get takeout from, that's the only way I could get their food. It had to be takeout, places I would go sit down at. And we had no choice for several months. It was closed. And then after that, even limited space. So, I mean, I applaud you if you're able to start a restaurant opening day, you're only takeout.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of, was there some marketing?
It was one of those.
I mean, that's tough.
Yeah, it doesn't kill you. It makes you stronger. So it definitely made us stronger. We were able to, go out, do everything marketing possible, put out flyers, spend a lot on advertising, just to share our food, our taste, and bring the customers in. And then I often did deliveries myself to various businesses. So we did everything possible just to stay afloat.
Yeah.
Because most restaurants do fail within the first year.
Oh, sure.
But I guess it wasn't just the pandemic. But then a couple months later, the social unrest happened in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
So we're boarding up. We're closing at 5 p.m. on a Saturday just to get out of Dodge.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a tough time, but we were able to manage and prosper, actually. And, we came up with a lot of marketing efforts and slogans. I mean, we have like Pho Fridays for $5. So you can get a whole bowl of pho at our Dinkytown location for $5, which was really received well by the student population there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so once they came in, tried our pho, and then tried other items, we kind of got them hooked.
Yeah, I would think at that location, obviously, there's a lot of students that you're catering to. So what are your hours now? Are you, because I could see a lot of students wanting to come over at night or...
Yep. So our Dinkytown location, we're open basically 11 to 9 p.m. every day, but
Sure.
we're closed on Wednesdays.
Okay.
Whereas the Asia Mall, we're open 11 to 9 p.m. every day, 365 days. So that's part of our lease, which is, exciting, but also difficult on the staff and family.
Well, I was going to ask you that because a big issue now for everyone, whatever they're doing, is finding labor. And so you have opened, just said you just opened a restaurant, open 365 days a year, 8 hours or 10 hours a day. Have you had difficulty finding people to work?
We did initially, but once we were able to hire more individuals on and they knew the type of owners we were, we treat everyone like a family. So then they got other acquaintances and family members to join us. So we have a huge staff. We have, on busy days, we'll have like 35 people working, because we really value quality, and we know everyone's on the run nowadays. They don't want to sit around wait 30, 40 minutes for the food. So we're pretty fast.
So here's my plug, because I've been there twice now. You are fast, and the service is phenomenal. There's someone at your table right away, and there are quite a bit of people in there. And you've got a lot, there's quite a few seats that you have in there, because it is kind of a lot of 2-person, 4-person tables, and then someone will want to kind of eat, then walk around the grocery store, and then maybe go upstairs for, some of the dessert items or other items. But yeah, I can attest to that.
Yeah, so that's where we're very happy and thrilled to be able to offer that service. Maybe just fit in with the times.
Yeah. Did some of the people that were working at the Dinkytown location come over and help start the one here?
Yep. Some of our head cooks, because we knew we're opening, so we hired additional staff to train in at Dinkytown location. Then we were able to bring them over here and have them run the kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah. So definitely having 2 restaurants has been terrific.
Okay. Did I read about, are you thinking about a third now?
A couple things. We're excited. No one knows this yet, but we're excited. We're going to be opening up in Canterbury.
Really?
The Canterbury Park.
Okay.
In the casino. We're able to acquire a concession, so that news will be coming out next week.
So this is big. We've got the Chinese bakery coming to the Asia Mall, and we've got another Pho Mai coming to Canterbury.
Yes.
Wow.
So
for this racing season, I think that would start around Memorial Day or something.
Actually, we're going to start next month, Kentucky Derby. So they have a huge event and we're shooting to open up by that time.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to do all the racing days and then special events like their concerts.
Okay.
But we're excited to offer a limited menu and then also our boba tea.
Okay. Can I, in terms of diving into the recipes a little bit, is the key to the pho that the broth, the base in the broth is cooking for like more than a day at a time?
Oh, definitely. We have it going on. It's actually 3 different batches.
So
that
yeah,
we
I want
make.
you. Can you explain this to me? Because I mean, I eat so much of it, but I want to know the details. Yes, go ahead.
I'll try to share some of the details, but it's
and the secrets.
It's a secret. Actually, my wife and I, and my mom, obviously, but we know the recipe. So we'll make all the seasoning mixes, and then we'll have the cooks boil the batches. So it's actually 3 different set of broths that we'll make, and they're all done overnight all day, and then we'll combine all of them at the end to make that flavorful pho broth.
Okay, because there's it's like of the different ones you've got. Was it like a bone broth?
Yeah,
and then a vegetable.
Yeah, onions, the cinnamons, the whole 9 yards. So,
yeah,
but yeah, so my wife has all the details. I'm more of in charge of finance and marketing.
That's true. We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah,
so your mom and wife are the cooks.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have to get her on.
Definitely.
To get the secrets. Okay.
We'll have you
on
it's site
great.
to do a tour.
Yeah. No, it's excellent. So I think you explained why you got into the business. I mean, why you got into the business, I don't want to put words in your mouth, was your mom was in the business, and then you and your brother wanted to help from the business side. But I think you do. This isn't your only thing that you do. I think you're still in the tech world.
Yes,
right?
yeah. I think my brother and I are both in the tech field. He worked at Medtronic. I work at SBS Commerce. I work as an IT manager, but we wanted something different, kind of on the side. And since we've always grown up in the restaurant field, doing dishes, cooking, cleaning, it was just our roots. So that's where we're excited to be able to have MT and then open up other restaurants.
Do you think that there'll be a point in time where you don't have time to be an IT manager anymore, and it's going to be all the restaurants, or?
Probably.
Yeah.
But I enjoy both.
Good.
So much, yeah. Just because we're so used to just working hard and having fun.
And I don't know if I asked this, but maybe you said this. I'm sorry if you did. But how did you get connected into actually being in the Asia Mall? Were you? Were the brokers of the property, were they out taking proposals from different restaurants, or did you know the person that acquired the property?
Great question. So the person who acquired the property is a group of 5 gentlemen. The main one helped build all of our restaurants. So it was just out of the blue back in probably over 2 years ago. My wife and I stopped by his shop, and that's where he mentioned, we're looking at buying the Gander Mountain. And I was so excited just because I've lived in Eden Prairie, for 20 plus years. I know the environment. I know the market. I'm like, that's going to be a huge success. So I asked to be a tenant even before they signed the paperwork to buy Gander Mountain. And I knew exactly which location I wanted. And then I begged them to, cut a door for me also. So I have my own entrance. So only restaurant in the whole mall that has their own entrance.
Okay. From the outside?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so we have our own entrance for boba tea and Pho Mai.
Okay.
Mochi Dough.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about how the opening's gone in the local community. Is there anything else you see on the horizon for the Asia Mall? You talked about additional tenants. Do you see more Asia malls throughout the metro? I mean, food halls overall are kind of a big thing now. Food halls in general. Do you think there'll be more specific Asia mall developments or mixed food halls?
I definitely think so, based on the success of the Asia Mall. So I think the owners or other individuals see the success and want to mimic throughout town. Yeah, maybe the northwest area, maybe the Woodbury area. But I know the Burnsville's coming up. They have a smaller Asia Mall with a big grocery store backing.
Okay, so similar setup than what we have. Okay.
Definitely.
I'm curious to hear what are some of the best restaurants, cities, or restaurant scenes or restaurants that you've ever been to? So
my wife and I are big foodies. We love to go eat. half the time we don't even eat at our restaurant. We'll eat at all the other restaurants at the Asian Mall. So I really want to give a shout out to all the restaurants here, because when the owners of the mall, they inquired about possible tenants, they really vetted out all the restaurants. You had to have quality, you had to have experience, but it has to be well received by the Asian community. So all the restaurants in there have a very big background. With that said, we love dim sum. So Mandarin Kitchen in Bloomington,
Sure.
my wife and I always go to.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the owners in there is an Eden Prairie resident also.
Okay.
So we definitely love to support them.
Yeah, future podcast that's usually voted best dim sum in the metro.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Very high quality.
Yeah. Have you been able, because thinking about when you mentioned hot pot, the first hot pot I ever had been to was in Chinatown in Chicago, and there's San Francisco and New York that I've been to. Are there other cities where you've been to some great restaurants or types of food? And it doesn't have to be Asian. I just mean anywhere.
So we always love to go to Vegas. It's just the lights at night. So my wife and I, so we'll hit all the restaurants there. Your all the steakhouses, the Italian restaurants, the Japanese sushi restaurants, the Korean hot pot, and also Korean barbecue restaurants. So definitely Las Vegas is probably our favorite restaurant destination.
Is there a specific place you stay when you go, or do you stay at different locations? Do you have a favorite spot that you stay at?
Bellagio would probably be our favorite now.
Sure.
Just because it's so centrally located and the hotel's amazing.
Yeah. Do you win big when you go out there?
So my wife is very stingy. So she keeps all the money.
Yeah.
And she only hands me a certain amount to play. And if I lose it, I lose it. So then that's when I have to go ask money from my friends and anyone else that came.
Anyone else that's with you. So
Exactly.
no, and I this is a good diversion. So when you what games do you play when you're there?
I'm mainly a poker player, and she likes to play blackjack.
Okay.
Yep. So
Yeah,
it sounds like you've been playing.
No, I've only
Okay.
been to Vegas
Okay.
once in my life, and here's my thing: is that the two things that I played were craps and roulette, and I would say that the reason I liked craps is because it's the one game I felt that if like one person's winning, everyone can win, and there's a lot of cheering and yelling going on, and I thought this is kind of a group effort that's positive. So I've probably forgotten how to play now, but that's what I did.
Oh,
And then roulette is just, simple and easy. The card piece, I'm afraid I'd screw up or I wouldn't make the right bet or whatnot. But the poker, by the way, you say poker then, so you're playing against other people, not the house then.
Correct. That's where I like it. The house usually wins.
Yes.
So I like playing against other people. But problem with poker is you can spend hours and days there.
Yeah.
So the wife wasn't thrilled when I'd come back at 6 a.m. in the morning, and then we'd have something to do at 8 a.m.
And you just want to get a little rest.
Yeah, so that's where my last trip, I was just there about a month ago. I learned how to play craps. It's
did?
fun. It's
See?
exciting. Yes.
Yes.
So I rolled like 8 times without hitting 7. So
That's good.
Yeah,
That
that was
people,
exciting.
if that's the case, people were happy
yes,
for you.
So, and I made a lot of money for my friends.
Yes.
So.
No, that's interesting. So yeah, I was going to kind of ask you about, what else do you like to do in your spare time and trips to Vegas? How about for you then? Because like you said, you're an IT manager. You're involved in these different restaurants. Like what's a typical day for you then? Are you spending time then at the restaurants at the nights and the weekends, or do you have a pretty flexible job? Like, what's a typical day for you?
For me, it's pretty packed throughout the whole day. So usually I plan my day well in advance, at least the night before or the couple days before, what I'm doing on certain days, especially for kids. There's a lot of Ubering around and attending events. So usually, I'll wake up, try to get some exercise, handle all of my daily IT work. And then in the evenings, that's where I'll drive the kids around, attend their events. And then late evenings, I'll help out the restaurant, anything from waitering to doing dishes to paying the bills. And then late at night, that's where I'll do more of the computer work. So we'll do more of the finance and marketing and social media late at night. So it's a pretty long day.
Yeah.
But I guess for myself, I'm just used to working hard and having fun, I guess.
Yeah.
Just because, growing up, we didn't have a lot. So I know it's like not have anything. So that's where we really respect what we have and what we obtain. And yeah, so we're just thrilled that everything's worked out well. Just because where I've grown up, it was difficult back then, but just to see the transformation that we've been able to handle.
That's great. And are the kids in any way involved in the restaurants?
My second oldest helps out because he goes to school at the U of M.
Okay.
But my oldest goes to Madison, so he's not around most of the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is your you said, is your wife then involved with the restaurants all the time then?
Most of the time. So she also has a day job. She's a nurse.
Okay.
So yeah.
You guys are busy.
Yeah. So
you're making Nikki and I feel like we don't put in a full day of work here.
Oh no. We try to manage and get by. But I was gonna say that's where we really appreciate everything we get and receive, just because we work hard for it, and if anything ever it's given to us, we appreciate it. Whereas that's our biggest concern nowadays is our kids have it pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes, because they didn't go through what we through. My only time I hear from my Madison side is if he needs something or money and stuff. Yeah, so they have it pretty good, which I'm thrilled that we're able to offer that to the kids, because we love the kids to death. So
yeah. What is he studying at Madison?
I think a mechanical engineer. He's a second year student, so I hope he's switched around a lot.
Switched around a few times.
Yep. And my other son, he's a freshman. He's going to be a registered nurse like my wife. So
okay.
Yeah.
At the U?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a great nursing program here.
Definitely.
In a huge need.
Definitely.
There may be a huge need for mechanical engineers, but I just know more about nursing. What would you say then is kind of the proudest moment that you've had? Your proudest moment?
Really, a couple things stands out based on that question. So when I moved back to Minnesota back in 2002, I opened up a bakery. It was called Kolache Factory, just because I'd lived in Houston for a while, and kolaches were huge. I don't know if you ever had a kolache.
I have.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Montgomery, Minnesota?
No.
Montgomery, Minnesota has kolache days. They have a day named after that city for kolaches.
Yeah, so it's
Either
a
way,
Chuck bakery and bun, and it was terrific. So I loved it in Houston. I thought, it will do great in Minnesota. So I bought a franchise and opened up in Brooklyn Center, right next to Caribou. I thought, kolaches and coffee, what can go wrong? Unfortunately, it didn't go so well. And that's where we bet the farm, and we lost a lot of money. It closed around like 7 months after it opened. And there we're making like $300 to $400 a day, which is, when your expenses are over $1,000. Yeah. So, and I only say that because that was probably one of the lowlights. But one of the proudest things is the Asian Mall, because fast forward 15, 20 years later, we bet the farm at the Asian Mall just because we knew it'd do well, and we put all of our life savings in it. And it was just great to see the audiences and the lines, and just know that, when you fall, you get right back up and go at it again. So that's
a great story in the sense that you might not want to even be involved in food after what happened in that experience, but you kept going.
Definitely. My wife was really hesitant too because of our initial failures with that restaurant, but that's where we were able to persuade her to open up Dinkytown. Since that went well, we're like, let's go big or go home. So we were put everything we had in the Asian Mall, just because there was never a mall like that, and there was never really a Vietnamese restaurant of first class, really architectural, somewhere you want to eat, but not eat just great food, but also a great environment. Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's where we're really proud of the Pho Mai at Asia Mall.
And it seems like the community, the food community, and whether it's Vietnamese or Asian restaurants, that a lot of you seem to know each other.
Definitely small community. So we'll assist, we'll help each other. And
yeah. So are there some other some restaurants then that you know the owners of pretty well, or that you communicate with still quite a bit?
Oh, definitely, because we learn from each other. Where to source, how to do this, technology, all that stuff. So I've gotten to know a lot of the restaurant owners around town, mainly the Asian restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah. I really, want to thank you for coming on. I think, as I said, at the outset, the Asia Mall has been such a welcome addition of the community, and you're a huge part of that. And what we're seeing there is just amazing. So I don't know, before we kind of wrap up, Michael, is there any, the floor is yours for anything else you might want to add about anything we've talked about.
Terrific. I guess back to the question, you said, what's the most, proudest moment I've had? So another one stands out, and it's probably a little bit more prouder than the Asia Mall. This last winter, we had a lot of snow.
We did.
Yes.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
So my son was coming out of Target, and he was scraping his car and he saw this old gentleman. Didn't have a scraper trying to clear his car of snow. So my son went over there and assisted him, just to be a good Samaritan. And this gentleman handed him a $100 bill. Yes.
Wow.
And what I'm proud of is my son didn't take it. He gave it back to him.
Oh, wow.
Just because, he wanted to help out and, it wasn't worth $100. So when he told me that story, it just, broke my heart. I'm like, I did something right. So
that is awesome.
Yes. Or
that is,
wife did something right,
Yeah.
but maybe it's just my son, he knows right and wrong. But when I heard that story, it was just amazing because I would have taken that $100. I'm not gonna lie. I would have, if I was that age, I would have.
Yeah, it's like you're better than me, no doubt about it. I mean, it's what we could say we would do today, but this is a younger person. Yeah, that's wow.
Yeah,
that's
so
great.
I was thrilled to hear that, and so definitely just really proud of the kids.
So I thought you were gonna say that he was at Target and there was a lot of snow and he looked out and he saw this shopping cart on top of a really big hill and he took a picture and it became, Mount Eden Prairie.
No, I wish he would have put it up there.
Right?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
you know about
that?
Yeah.
Amazing how high that got.
Yeah, it's pretty viral, but that's awesome, Michael. That's a great story. Thank you for that, and thank you for not only living here and being a resident, but opening your restaurants here. It's much appreciated.
Definitely. We're thrilled to be in Eden Prairie and just basically support everyone. So the neighbors, the community, the sports. One last thing is, we wanted to create a restaurant where you can enjoy time with family. I mean, how often do you sit down and have a meal with your family nowadays? Because back in, 80s, 90s, that's all we did. After school, sat down, had a full family. Nowadays, with everyone so busy and activities and driving the kids around, that rarely do families get together and, have a nice dinner and be able to communicate and talk. So that's where, we wanted to offer a great environment at great prices too, where you can do that on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's great. No, it's important for people to break bread together and be together. That's great.
Definitely.
You've done that.
Terrific. Well, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Michael.